we've been working with Data Studio many hours in the last couple of years. So we have a few best practices that we can share with you. And as usual today, it's Alex, Thomas, and here Ricardo talking to you about some of the recommendations that we can give you for GCP, BigQuery, Data Studio, and more tools.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Alex, maybe you can start with one of your favorite best practices in Data Studio.
Before the recording, I said to Ricardo, give me your first point. I don't care.
Best practice is asking Alex first.
Yeah, okay, then I start with our first point, creating an own theme in Data Studio. So not creating it, but at least saving it for other reports. So let's say you have, for example, for us, mostly a new customer, for example, and you create the first dashboard for them. And then you are talking with them, okay, the most important colors, the design of the whole report, and so on. And then you change the theme of this report. And then you are starting to create a report. And then maybe some days, weeks later, there comes a new task for you with a new dashboard. And then you have a new blank dashboard. And then you have again to open in one tab your old dashboard, and in the other tab, on the new tab, your new report. And then you go to both themes and select everything that both is aligned.
So what also works super good, which is at the end exactly the same, but if you're just duplicating an old report, the upside is it's not only the theme you're duplicating, but also all your settings with tables, charts, and so on, right? In the theme, there is of course font sizes, font families, colors, standard colors. What you should never forget is you take 1 or 2 hours of time somewhere to go through those theme settings, because it's super interesting when you understand how Data Studio themes are basically built, what you can do with those coloring schemes, for example, right? That you say, okay, there are 4 main colors, and then there are additional dimensional colors, which going up to, I think, 10. It's 10 individual colors. You're starting with font, normal, basically standard font color, and so on. Those are the first 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. And then you continue with color 5 till 10, which is another 6. And if you understand how this whole theme thing is working, it's half of the work done also for the future. First of all, your reports look always exactly the same. Second of all, and it's super nice for you because you don't need to do those changes every time again. Maybe you have on the left-hand side your own navigation. You have a very good structure and so on. All those settings you can have within your report already. So duplicate your report and just copy paste the stuff then you need.
I think
I like to do both. I like to have the theme saved, and I also aside to that, duplicate the dashboards that I already have. Has the understanding of how this connection to maybe the corporate identity that you want to have, or consistent in the colors, and understand how Data Studio works. But then using duplicating the dashboard, because we'll go through that a bit later, how you can use additional elements that are just graphics that help you make a more visually appealing dashboard, maybe as background of each of the individual charts. And you have that already in predefined sizes or approaches, and then it's easier to work based on that. It's really based on however someone feels more comfortable in doing that. And having a duplicate is quite nice.
Exactly. I think it's really about thinking about your design or how you would like to display the stuff 5 minutes more, because it will help you, it will save you so much time in the future and also in the next hours. Even if you're a beginner and you start creating your first chart and so on, maybe you would say, okay, I would like to use Pareto principle. I would be as quick as possible. Don't care about design, quickly measures, charts, tables, and so on. But then you have a problem, because it's a very easy structure you have in Data Studio. That means for every single chart you created, for every single measure, for every single table, you have to do all the changes again. You cannot copy paste, format, or something like that. Think about the design 1, 2, 3 minutes. Think about what kind of font family I would like to use, what kind of font size, what kind of colors would I like to have in the header, or what kind of borders would I like to use. Because all those settings you just do once. And if you like your table and it looks super nice, then simply copy paste your table second time, third time, fourth time, and you're super quick. You just change like the data source you use, put your KPIs inside, done deal. You have a really nice looking dashboard.
Yeah, maybe in connection to that, another best practice I would recommend is really taking advantage of the grid on the background. By default, when you create a new dashboard in Data Studio, it has this grid in the background. I always create any element that I create, my smallest units of measure is one of these squares in the grid, no?
Mhm.
So then when I align elements, they're always consistently, the distance can only be either 1, 2, 3 squares. It's always like a full square of difference, and the elements are the same size. And that saves a lot of headache when in comparison to having this smart guide approach that just like aligns to any type of element. And if you have a tiny support image, it misaligns everything. I just go, it's very basic, but then I do that and I can move element with the arrow keys and they move always by 1 square of difference. And that's something that is noticeable, no? Like when you see a dashboard that was created this way, it's consistent, everything looks aligned, it looks more professional. Then yes, maybe the first approach, if you're just like making a draft and just throwing stuff in the dashboard, it can look messy quite quickly, especially if you're then going to be doing, like we said, duplicating this dashboard, then just going to create more and more chaos there.
And everyone in our company knows me that I'm the godfather of like small design changes. I think it's super important, like what Ricardo said, right? If you have 5 elements next to each other and they are a little bit like shaky and not completely consistent on the same line and the same size, it doesn't look nice and it doesn't look professional. You could see it as a like downside of Data Studio, that of course it's not like snapping to the grid like in other platforms, but it's HTML based, and it gives you a lot of advantage that you can change everything the way you would like to change it. But you need to follow certain like design guidelines, not using that smart aligning function, but this grid aligning is the first thing you should change, because I think the original setting is smart aligning, correct?
But I'm not sure who is the origin here. So because in terms of aligning elements, so I know, so both, but I would say also when I prepared the first dashboards, I also get often the Slack message from Ricardo, these elements here are not so good aligned.
Later, Ricardo, who's the originator of that?
No, you can take that. No, I think for better or worse, when working with data, it's a lot about attention to details, no? And maybe yes, it doesn't mean that your figures in the background are not accurate if you're having this type of design approach. But when I see something that is perfectly aligned, is consistent, it gives me in the back of my head, okay, this person at least took the time to do this, and I feel more comfortable assuming that this person took the same approach to preparing their queries and analyzing what they were doing. It's not always exactly the case, but I feel more comfortable around that.
I mean, it's a little bit subconscious, right? If everything like looks professional, looks nice, then you also have a better feeling about the data which is being shown.
Then next practice. I don't know, Alex, Thomas, who wants to keep going?
So because I think there's one other topic which you can also align to that is the whole own navigation thing.
Yeah.
So with own navigation, we mean that you are, for example, have on the left side of your report, inside the report, your own navigation, so that you don't use the one which Google is offering. So one type is hidden, then you have to choose, or you have to select your own navigation. And then you have 2 types. They're nearly the same on the left side, but then outside of the report. So you have your whole report, and then on the left side, you have the navigation. Just quickly, all of the pages under it. Now you have some new elements which you can add. Therefore, you can check our most important releases of Data Studio and BigQuery. So Data Studio also improved that a lot. But yeah, I think in terms of flexibility and so on, it's still better to create your own navigation if you have time for it, if you are more experienced on that. And quickly, and on the top, you can also put tabs. So then it's really like in your browser or something, you can then click on the tabs. Own navigation, we use it now for, I think, every report to create an own navigation.
It has some advantages. So first of all, you would like to have the icon or the logo of your company inside the report anyway. So this basically blocks the left upper part or wherever you put it. It does make perfectly sense to basically put some links below that you can easily like link to other pages. What you could also do with the Data Studio navigation, what you cannot do is go to other links outside of that report. And this is as much needed as going inside the reports to any other pages. At the end, you don't want to have like your whole like dashboarding system, data warehouse system in one report. You would like to have different reports for that. But maybe you would like to make it more interactive, that they don't have to go to the Data Studio landing page, search for the report or bookmark it somewhere. But if you basically think about your navigation a little bit longer, like some minutes longer, then you can always like link another report like outside of your particular report. And if you do it in a smart way, you never have to leave that report, and the user will never understand and never see that you are in a complete different report. And I think there's no reason that you should know. The big disadvantage and the big downside is you cannot get rid of that navigation, right? While in the Data Studio navigation, here, of course, it's there. You cannot change that because it's part of the HTML website or HTML site. You should find a good like size for your navigation. So don't make it too wide because then it blocks a lot of like content information. Don't make it too narrow. Don't make it too small because then you're quite limited in the link names. And if you use in this like navigation part, the upper part for your links, you can use the part below for any filters, right? I would like to finish the navigation part with one last thing. At the very bottom on the left, you can put some contact parts or some support parts or any link when someone needs help. And you can also put a glossary inside, for example, right? Or an icon, which is like showing like question mark or like information or whatever. Like you can make a small bar for getting help here, getting more information there, and so on, which leads you maybe to a complete different report again, which is just there to show you some general information how to use this report or this dashboard, or like giving you a glossary for exactly that page, which is linking to another page. So there's complete flexibility. You just have to like think about the way how to do it.
I think Data Studio is really brilliant in terms of linking all this stuff and how they can handle links. What I can also mention is, for example, I also built one dashboard where I use a lot of this hyperlink function in Data Studio. So, for example, let's say at the first page of your report, you have your whole business, for example. And then you see, for example, all of your brands. And then you have, for example, the most important KPIs for every brand, for example, in one table. And you see, for example, also the color of the brand image. And then you can say, okay, when the user clicks on the brand image, on the brand logo, then it gets to a new page of the report. And then it's already filtering for this brand on the new page, where you then get more insights into the brand. I also made a Medium blog post for that, so I can also link it in the description.
What we did for one of our customers is, it was basically a report for all the brands this customer has. And what you can do is, let's say the customer has 100 brands or more, and you make an overview where you show like the top 12 brands, for example, right? 4 brands, second line 4 brands, third line 4 brands, with core information like how many items sold, how many products on stock, I don't know, name, more revenue, whatever. You can even like show the brand logo, right? Important is that the logo like files are somewhere in your storage, let's say cloud storage, or like stored somewhere else. They need to have a certain name.
So you need the link to the image,
exactly.
and then you can choose at the right if you would show the link, which makes no sense mostly. But then you can also say, okay, that's an image, and then Data Studio clicks on the link and then visualize
exactly
the
so
image.
You have basically, let's say, a table inside BigQuery for your brands. There, the link to the image is attached, and then you can basically select for that. And the good thing is that all of those 12 elements can be adjustable. You can put a drop down over each like brand, which is showing all the brand names. So what you can basically do is you can say, okay, give me the top 12 brands, but all of them can be replaced while using that report. And you can basically click on the brand name, select a complete different brand. So you could like compare easily 12 of your brands, which you can completely select yourself. And if you then click on the brand name, this is what Alex said, you could hyperlink basically to your product report, which is automatically getting filtered for that brand name. And this is a feature which is really nice. I know that it's like a very like also basic feature for bigger like reporting tools, like a Looker, for example, or like also Tableau, and to name the most biggest ones. But what you should never forget here, it's like it's free to use, so you don't need a license for 25 or 50 bucks per person, and you can still do it.
But do we have some more general report best practices, especially in terms of styling the report?
Good question. So what we usually do is again having this navigation. We talked about that. Navigation has normally certain background color, which is basically CI color of your company would work. And then for every table, for every chart and so on, we have a white box behind that, right? That you have this normal tile looking report. And if you have a chart, you can use basically the white background of the chart box. That could work. If you have a table, for me, the problem is always like then you have the table and directly attached to the table will basically your gray background would start, which is a little bit, I don't like it. So I basically place this white tile and then put basically the table on top of it. What you can do is basically grouping those elements that it's easier for you to move them all at once. I normally never do that because I'm quickly then selecting basically this part.
In which case would you recommend then grouping items? Because I only group items when I want to apply a filter exclusively for those. Outside of that, if I don't do it, because then in some cases that I want to move just one element, the first thing Data Studio does is select the tree, and I was like,
yeah. That's why I also never group. Yeah, you can do that if it's easier for you, but we found out that it has a little bit more downsides than upsides at the end. This would be a general recommendation for your design to have a good contrast, make a slight gray or whatever color you like, and then have those white boxes. It's just important to have a clear like padding in the middle, like this margin between the boxes, right? We use one tile or two tiles sometimes, but inside your company and inside your reports, it should always be the same, that it looks nice.
Connected to what you were saying, just take advantage of the freedom of Data Studio and use images or shapes as elements in your design. Like I sometimes need to organize a table by a certain way that is not possible in what is being shown. I just add another column that it helps me rank my table, and I just put a white box on top of it, and that's it. Like it really helps to make the column as narrow as possible. Put the white box there. It looks exactly the same, and no one knows it. Only when I need to do it. So then it's in my role to document it and share the information that, hey, this table is organized or ranked by a hidden, so to say, column in it.
Exactly. We even did other things like having two tables overlapping each other to show different things.
I can give an example. For when you have a metric in Data Studio, you can compare it by absolute or relative, no? But it's either or, no? So then we put just another table in the background, which only has this metric with the other comparison, overlap it exactly, and then you just see it that way, and that's it.
Just check, and that is super important if you do things like that both tables are basically sorted on the same dimension or metric. This is super important.
And then you cannot scroll, right?
And you cannot scroll, of course, because then the second table, which is basically in the background, will not scroll with the other thing. It only works when you're not scrolling. But for that, it works like super good, and it will do the job. And think about different ways how to do that. We also had the thing with this European a map when you could not. This has changed, by the way, in the meantime, because you can use Google Maps. But beforehand, you need to use the Maps function of Data Studio when you would like to go into the embedded view. And so you could not zoom in, and you could not like narrow down the part you would like to show. So we just made it bigger. We just covered the part we didn't want to show, and it did the job. So yeah, think about multiple ways how to approach an issue.
So then that would be our first round of best practices of Data Studio. Like we said, we spend a lot of time working in this tool. We know that it has a lot of shortcomings, but I think the possibilities are really cool to get people working dynamically with their data and getting insights out of this. So always open to learn. We've learned a lot following different videos, blogs and stuff. So, and we're always open to hearing more feedback on that. So if you have any additional best practices or tips to give, we're really happy to hear it.
So for sure, subscribe to our channel and check out the other videos of our channel. We also have our Medium posts where we are, for example, summarizes the newest feature of Data Studio, BigQuery, and so on, and always look on other GCP services. Check it out, everything, Medium and also the other videos. And yeah, have a good day and see you.
See you next time in the video. Bye-bye.
Bye.